devastation comes to California.
This was like an 80-mile-an-hour blowtorch.
I came out and I saw a fireball.
Los Angeles was set ablaze, not just by flames, but by Benjamin Netanyahu's shocking words. "This fire is a warning from above." The Israeli Prime Minister called it a clear sign for a culture lost in greed. On January 7, 2025, the fire destroyed over 5,000 homes, including Hollywood's mansions, pushed by strong Santa Ana winds. Netanyahu criticized the city's focus on fame and money, warning of bigger dangers beyond the ruins. Tune in as we expose a disaster that could be just the beginning of even darker days. A fire linked to moral decay. Los Angeles, home of the stars, luxury, and endless ambition, went up in flames on January 7, 2025. Over 5,000 homes, some of them extravagant mansions, were reduced to ash. Imagine watching your sprawling estate, the pride of your success, become nothing but embers. The Santa Ana winds, relentless as ever, whipped the fire into a monster no firefighter could tame. Neighborhoods like Pacific Palisades, the epitome of Hollywood wealth, turned into charred ruins overnight. But in the heart of this inferno, one untouched mansion stood, a mystery no one could explain. Why Los Angeles? Netanyahu didn't hold back. He said it's a city that epitomizes everything wrong with modern culture: obsession with fame, wealth, and indulgence. To him, this fire was a spotlight on our priorities. We build these empires of luxury, chasing status and pleasure, but when disaster strikes, none of it can protect us. This isn't just about homes and mansions burning, he said. It's about the emptiness we've built our lives around. But the Prime Minister's words went beyond condemnation. He offered a challenge. He asked if this fire would finally wake us up to the deeper issues at hand. "What are you building your life on?" he asked. "If it's wealth and status, then know this: it can all be taken in an instant. But faith, obedience to God, that's unshakable." Quoting Matthew chapter 6, he reminded everyone, "Do not store up treasures on earth where moths and rust destroy, but treasures in heaven." The man wasn't pulling punches. He painted a picture of a world consumed by greed and self-indulgence, where even monumental disasters barely make us pause. But to Netanyahu, this fire wasn't just destruction, it was a mirror. "We've built monuments to ourselves," he said, while neglecting the one who made it all possible. The reaction? Let's just say it was as fiery as the disaster itself. Some hailed Netanyahu as a visionary, someone willing to say what no one else will. Others called his statements opportunistic, a distraction from more practical solutions. But love it or hate it, his words cut deep. As Los Angeles began its slow recovery, communities rallied together in extraordinary ways. Volunteers poured in, offering food, clothing, and hope. Neighbors who had barely spoken before the fire now leaned on each other for support. Firefighters were hailed as heroes, their efforts a rare bright spot in the tragedy. His parting words were a challenge. "We've seen the signs. The question is, will we listen, or are we waiting for an even louder wake-up call?" As the smoke cleared, Los Angeles faced not just the daunting task of physical reconstruction, but a deeper reckoning with what this fire revealed about the fragility of modern life. Whether you buy into Netanyahu's prophecy-laden interpretation or not, one thing's for sure: this fire was a turning point. It stripped away the illusions of invincibility, leaving behind a city forced to confront some uncomfortable truths. As homes are rebuilt and lives slowly return to normal, the lingering question remains: are we really ready to change? Or are we just setting the stage for the next catastrophe? Netanyahu's address didn't just resonate in Los Angeles, it reverberated globally. Social media lit up with debates over the Prime Minister's claims. Some dismissed his words as fear-mongering, while others saw them as a long-overdue wake-up call. Videos of his speech were shared millions of times, sparking conversations in households, places of worship, and political offices around the world. His insistence that this disaster was a divine message, not merely a climate-induced catastrophe, forced people to confront uncomfortable questions about their values and priorities. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, the recovery effort revealed both the best and worst of human nature. While many rose to the occasion, providing support and solidarity, others sought to exploit the chaos. Reports of looting surfaced, with some individuals taking advantage of evacuated neighborhoods to plunder what little remained. These incidents added a layer of heartbreak to an already devastating situation, underscoring Netanyahu's point about the moral decay in modern society. Amid the wreckage, stories of hope emerged. Families who had lost everything found solace in their faith and in each other. Community centers became hubs of resilience, offering not just material aid, but also emotional support. Religious leaders from various faiths came together to organize interfaith services, emphasizing unity and shared purpose in the face of adversity. These moments of connection highlighted the potential for humanity to rise above its divisions when confronted with shared challenges. Netanyahu's continued commentary kept the global spotlight on the broader implications of the Los Angeles fire. He referenced other recent disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, and conflicts, to build his case that the world is experiencing a convergence of crises that cannot be explained away as mere coincidence. To him, these events are interconnected, part of a larger narrative that points to a spiritual reckoning. He urged leaders to take a hard look at the systems and values that underpin modern society. We've built a world that prioritizes profit over people, convenience over community, and self-interest over service, he said. These fires, these disasters, are a call to re-examine our foundations. Are they built on solid ground, or are they as vulnerable as the homes that were swept away in Los Angeles? Netanyahu's words struck a chord with some and sparked outrage in others. Critics accused him of exploiting a tragedy to push a religious agenda. They argued that his focus on prophecy and divine judgment detracted from the urgent need to address climate change and infrastructure resilience. Environmental scientists pointed out that the conditions leading to the fire, record-breaking drought, high temperatures, and strong winds, were exacerbated by human activity, not divine intervention. But Netanyahu's supporters countered that his message wasn't about denying the role of climate change, but about urging a deeper, moral response to the crisis we face. As the weeks turned into months, the physical scars of the fire began to fade. Reconstruction efforts gained momentum, with federal and state governments pouring resources into rebuilding homes and infrastructure. Yet, the emotional and spiritual impact of the disaster lingered. For many, Netanyahu's words became a catalyst for introspection. Families began to reassess their priorities, valuing time spent together over the pursuit of material success. Communities strengthened their bonds, finding renewed purpose in collective action. The fire pushed Los Angeles toward a chance to rebuild stronger and smarter. Hard truths for Los Angeles. The Los Angeles fire will be remembered not just for its scale, but for the questions it raised about the direction humanity is heading. Netanyahu's challenge to look beyond the flames and see the deeper meaning resonated with those willing to confront uncomfortable truths. Whether his interpretation is embraced or dismissed, the underlying message remains. The choices we make today will shape the world we leave for future generations. As the smoke settles, one thing is clear: Los Angeles has been irrevocably changed. The city known for its glitz and glamour now carries the scars of a disaster that exposed its vulnerabilities and forced its inhabitants to confront their priorities. Netanyahu's plea for a return to faith and moral grounding may not have all the answers, but it has sparked a conversation that the world cannot afford to ignore. The real test will be whether this moment of reckoning leads to lasting change or becomes just another chapter in a cycle of destruction and rebuilding. In the weeks following the fire, a noticeable shift began to take hold within Los Angeles and beyond. Grassroots movements emerged, advocating for sustainable urban planning and stronger environmental regulations. The tragedy reignited discussions about climate resilience, pushing city leaders to confront long-standing vulnerabilities in infrastructure and resource management. This proactive response was a testament to the resilience of a community that refused to be defined by its scars. Religious groups across denominations played a significant role in fostering healing and hope. Churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples opened their doors to displaced residents, offering not only shelter, but also spiritual solace. These spaces became beacons of unity, reminding people of the strength found in collective compassion. leaders from various faiths joined together in public forums to emphasize the importance of addressing not just physical, but also moral and spiritual restoration. The rebuilding process in Los Angeles became a symbol of determination and hope. Architects and city planners collaborated on innovative designs for fire-resistant structures, ensuring that new developments would be better equipped to withstand future challenges. Community-driven initiatives prioritized equitable access to resources, ensuring that recovery efforts reached even the most vulnerable populations. These measures reflected a collective determination to emerge stronger and more united than before. As Los Angeles slowly healed, the global community watched closely, recognizing the city's journey as a microcosm of broader struggles. The lessons learned from this tragedy transcended geographic boundaries, serving as a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of humanity. Whether through acts of kindness, advocacy for systemic change, or personal introspection, people around the world found ways to channel the fire's message into meaningful action. People scrambled to escape, clutching their most valuable possessions, maybe a family heirloom, important papers, or their pets. Traffic? A nightmare. Streets became rivers of cars, crawling at a snail's pace, everyone desperate to get away. The air wasn't just hard to breathe, it carried a weight, a suffocating sense of hopelessness. Los Angeles, the city of dreams, looked like it had turned into the setting for a disaster film, except this time, it wasn't fiction. Amid all this, a video popped up online and started spreading like wildfire, pun intended. The face in the video? None other than Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. His tone? Grave but calm, like he was delivering some groundbreaking revelation. And boy did he make headlines. This isn't just nature at work, he declared, but a wake-up call, a message about the cracks in our humanity and the choices we've been making. For some, his words hit hard. They started wondering if there was something deeper behind these flames. Netanyahu didn't just stop at that. He pulled out scripture, hitting on themes about lost values and neglected priorities. It was like a spiritual wake-up alarm, but not everyone was buying it. Critics? Oh, they were quick to point fingers. They accused him of distracting from the obvious culprits, a warming planet, bad urban planning, and a society that seemed to care more about building luxury homes than about wildfire safety. Meanwhile, the fire wasn't waiting for debates to settle. Fierce winds turned the blaze into an unstoppable beast, tearing through neighborhoods at lightning speed. Places like Pacific Palisades, where mansions once boasted jaw-dropping ocean views, were now smoldering ruins. Even Hollywood Hills, a symbol of stardom and history, wasn't spared. The flames crept closer and closer, forcing evacuations that left people wondering if their homes would still exist by morning. The city's firefighters were like warriors on a losing battlefield. Over 100 ended up injured, with some rushed to hospitals that were already stretched thin. And amidst the chaos, there were stories that gave a sliver of hope. Firefighters saving entire families, neighbors forming human chains to evacuate elders, and volunteers showing up with food and water for those who'd lost everything. But let's not sugarcoat this. It wasn't all heroics. Looting broke out in some areas, adding insult to injury. While some folks were trying to survive, others were busy exploiting the chaos, snatching valuables from deserted homes. Netanyahu's video, though, wouldn't go away. People kept replaying it, dissecting every word. Religious leaders jumped in, some praising him for highlighting moral lessons, others raising eyebrows at what they saw as opportunism. Scientists, on the other hand, were not amused. They laid down the cold, hard facts. This was no divine test. This was decades of reckless environmental neglect coming back to haunt humanity. Climate change? Check. Poor urban planning? Check. A complete disregard for wildfire risk when designing sprawling neighborhoods? Triple check. The data was damning. Years of rising temperatures and worsening droughts had turned California into a tinderbox. Add in overbuilt communities nestled in fire-prone zones, and you had a disaster waiting to happen. Experts demanded action, not sermons. Fix the policies, fix the planning, they said. We don't need metaphors, we need solutions. As the flames started to die down, the destruction they left behind became painfully clear. Social media was flooded with gut-wrenching images. Families camping out in gym shelters, their lives packed into duffel bags. Firefighters slumped over in exhaustion, their faces etched with soot and weariness. The lucky ones who'd saved their homes weren't exactly celebrating. The city had taken a hit it wouldn't recover from anytime soon. Los Angeles began to rise, fueled by the strength and unity of its people. Flames, divisions, and a call to change. Globally, Netanyahu's speech became a lightning rod for discussion. Was he a visionary, daring to speak about morality in the face of disaster? Or was he just using a tragedy to push his own agenda? The opinions were as divided as the city's charred landscape. Meanwhile, grassroots movements sprang up, demanding action on climate change and social inequality. Online, the hashtag #RebuildRight trended as people pushed for sustainable rebuilding efforts. Despite the political wrangling and public debates, what really stood out was the resilience of Los Angeles. Strangers became friends. Communities that had once barely spoken came together, sharing resources and rebuilding lives. Teenagers organized fundraisers for displaced families, retirees volunteered their skills, and artists painted murals on the ruins as symbols of hope. The city's scars were everywhere, but so was its determination to rise again. The city wasn't just a backdrop to catastrophe, it was a reflection of everything that could go wrong and what could be done right. The luxury mansions in the hills were more than symbols of excess. They were emblematic of risks ignored for too long. Building codes? Not strict enough. Environmental planning? Almost non-existent. And the cost of rebuilding these spaces? Astronomical. As the dust settled, the stories grew louder. Environmental activists pointed out the clear link between the fires and climate change. "This is what happens when carbon emissions go unchecked," said one viral post, shared millions of times. Scientists called for immediate action on reducing greenhouse gases. Urban planners warned that Los Angeles needed a complete overhaul to survive future disasters. But implementing such changes wasn't as straightforward as it sounded. Money was tight, and political will even tighter. The human stories added depth to the catastrophe. Families who lost everything shared their grief on social media, sparking crowdfunding campaigns that sometimes raised enough for a fresh start. Others weren't so lucky. The disparity between wealthy and poor communities became glaringly obvious. Wealthier areas saw quicker responses and better resources, while poorer neighborhoods struggled to get the help they desperately needed. This inequality wasn't new, but the fire laid it bare for everyone to see. Religious leaders took Netanyahu's words as a call to action. Interfaith groups worked together to provide relief, organizing donation drives and setting up shelters. Sermons touched on the fragility of life and the importance of community. But for every voice of unity, there were whispers of skepticism. Was this genuine compassion or just an opportunity for self-promotion? Opinions varied widely, and the debates were as heated as the flames that had swept through the city. Meanwhile, artists found inspiration in the ruins. Murals depicting phoenixes rising from ashes began to appear on the walls of burned-out buildings. Music festivals dedicated to wildfire recovery brought people together, their lyrics reflecting both pain and hope. The arts became a way for the city to process its grief and channel its resilience into something beautiful. Corporate responses also drew attention. Some companies pledged millions to aid recovery efforts, while others were criticized for their role in exacerbating the crisis. Oil and gas giants, in particular, found themselves under fire. Activists demanded accountability, pointing out that their industries had contributed to the climate conditions making such fires inevitable. Boycotts and protests became a regular occurrence, with demands for transparency and change. Education became another focal point. Schools that had been destroyed faced the challenge of rebuilding, but teachers and parents saw an opportunity to educate students about climate change, environmental responsibility, and community resilience. Curriculum changes were proposed, aiming to equip the next generation with the tools needed to prevent future disasters. Even as progress was made, the scars of the fire remained. The charred landscape served as a constant reminder of what had been lost, but it also symbolized a fresh start. Grassroots organizations worked tirelessly to plant trees, rebuild homes, and support affected families. The phrase "rebuild right" wasn't just a hashtag, it became a mantra for a city determined to learn from its mistakes. Looking ahead, Los Angeles faced an uncertain future. Would it rise to the challenge and implement the changes needed to prevent another catastrophe? Or would it fall back into old habits, rebuilding without addressing the underlying issues? The answers weren't clear, but on thing was certain. The fire had been a wake-up call, and the world was watching to see how the city would respond. And as the world watched, Los Angeles itself transformed into a crucible of innovation, resilience, and debate. New coalitions emerged, bringing together scientists, urban planners, artists, and faith leaders. Conferences sprang up in the wake of the fire, each one dedicated to reimagining what a safer, more sustainable Los Angeles could look like. These events became breeding grounds for bold ideas. Vertical forests in high-risk zones, mandatory fire break zones around urban developments, and policies incentivizing renewable energy adoption on a scale never seen before. Is this a divine warning or humanity's own doing? Share your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.